to buy a piece of property, to subdivide it, it takes time and it takes patience. It's something that is really nice for a person that wants a house anyways and moves there, and instead of just buying a house that has no potential, you buy a house that has a potential of something. I know this whole course is about getting into real estate and starting, so property development is really not what you should be doing, but I just kind of wanted to let you know a little bit of, if you were gonna stick around in this whole industry and do something potentially in the future, that's where you could end up being. Now, when it comes to property development, I just said piece of land, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's always going to be just raw dirt. You can develop a piece of property with an existing building there or something else. So it doesn't necessarily mean dirt, but I'm going to focus on dirt just because it's something that's very clear cut. When it comes to developing a piece of property with a building on it, it really gets into some serious land use and planning and stuff like that. So we're going to focus on buying a piece of property, or buying a piece of property, a house that has a huge piece of property that you can subdivide into, let's say, 2 or 3 pieces of land. That's really good if you don't happen to have your own home and you want to live there, right? And you can slowly develop your property, nobody's bugging you about it. And there's a couple stages of property development. So number 1 is obviously property acquisition. So you're gonna have to figure out what kind of property can be subdivided. It usually works off the zoning map. So if the single family lot in that area is, let's say, 5,000 square feet, and your property is 25,000 square feet with a house on it, that means on paper, you can subdivide this into 5 lots. Now, it never works like that in reality. It's always a little bit less, so count on 4 lots. So that's kind of a starting point. Before you even buy it, you kind of have to figure out if that's possible. Now, the next thing you got to do is figure out a couple things like utilities, mostly sewer, really. When it comes to this area where I'm at, sewer is the king. If you have sewer, you can subdivide, you can develop, you can do anything. If you don't have sewer, you have septics. It's kind of hard because every septic needs a lot of area to get a drain field, basically to release all that water that comes out of your system. So you can't really develop it too much because you can't build on top of these septics or the drain fields. Now, when you have a property that's zoned right, that's big enough, that has all the utilities, now you go to your civil engineer, okay? And just ask. You don't even need to put in an offer on this. These guys can look it up on GIS or online and kind of take a look at it. And that person, your civil engineer, will be able to tell you, hey, this looks really promising, or there's a wetland in the back, that's why it's so big and empty. You might not be able to do that. But let's say everything works out and everything is good. You talk to this civil engineer and you ask, okay, what do we need to do here? Okay, if we leave the house here, it's going to take up on 1 lot, and then we got 3 more on the side or whatever. What access do we have to them? How do we get utilities to them? Do we have to put in a driveway? Do we have to put in new water lines? These kind of things, I know they sound kind of like a lot, but there's really not that much. Essentially, that's all it is. That civil engineer that you're talking to, he's going to be able to tell you how to bring him in and place them where they need to be placed, right? And then he's also going to say, look, if we subdivide this lot's going to be here, this lot's going to be here, this lot's going to be here, you're going to have a driveway here. And with that information, kind of when you're prepped, you go to the county or to the city or wherever you are, and you make a pre-application meeting. You're not submitting for anything. You're not even the owner of it, technically speaking, if you didn't make an offer on it. So you just go out there, you take your information from your civil engineer that you probably spent $500 on, because you kind of have to spend some money to make some money. So you take that information and then you talk to them and see if this kind of matches what they would allow. Once they okay majority of your stuff or all of it, or they say in principle, that's what we would do and it would be okay, then you go back to your civil engineer. Sometimes I actually bring him over with me, you know, like he comes in with me because he's got better questions than I do. Once you're done there, then you can take that stuff that he gave you and look for a company that does dirt work, basically an excavating company, because that's the only person that matters in this particular situation. You don't need any subcontractors, you don't need anything. And then you get as much information as you can, as in like where the lots are going to be, how that's going to be developed, where the road's going to be, where the sewer is in front, how deep it is. You know, you do a good feasibility on it. You figure everything out that you need, and then you call a couple companies out, dirt companies, to meet on site and say, hey, this is the plan. This is what I want to do. How much would it be roughly? And when I say roughly, I'm talking within 25%, because dirt is the most unpredictable stage of construction. So if they tell you 100,000, count on 125, okay? But don't tell them that, just say, how much would it be approximately to do this? So if there's some things that you would probably want to save money on, it would be paving. So don't let them pave. Just say, look, you guys are gonna make the road and put the gravel and all that stuff, and I'll find the pavers, okay? Because if you just give them that, they'll just charge you on top of whatever they paid. So split that off. And then also, if you are subdividing, you are going to have to put sidewalk there. That's the rule here. I don't know if it's everywhere. I'm assuming it's pretty close, but from my perspective, where I live here, is anything you touch and you subdivide, you're gonna end up having to put sidewalk there. That's something that you also can take away from them, and you can find somebody else that does that on your own. Regardless, get the entire price. If all of that works out, do your math, okay? If all of that works out, then you can move on and make an offer. Or if you really like the house and you don't even care, you know, you can always just get the house, live in it, and call it a day. You can probably, over next, 5-10 years, figure out how to subdivide this. And the cool thing about subdivisions is they're always just increasing in value. So if you bought a piece of property on a nice spot and you could subdivide it now into 3, you can definitely subdivide it into 3 in 5 years, and it's going to be worth even more. It's really, really rare that subdivisions go from 3 to like not being able to. They usually go from 3 or 5 to 6 to 7. They increase the amount of lots that you can have. Subdivisions are great if you want to live at a house or you have resources to do this project. The downside of subdivisions is, man, they take a long time. So if you're looking into like a quick turnaround, subdivisions are not it. Aside from the fact that they take a long time, they can get expensive. Now there's like a thing where you can calculate and say, look, if I get 3 lots and I spend, $250,000 on the development, and I bought this house for like $500,000. Now, if I sell the house back at some point with a smaller piece of land, it might be $400,000. So now, if you take that loss of $100,000 and add it to the amount that you just spent on the development, that's $250,000 or $350,000. Now take that and divide it into how many lots you got. Now that's going to tell you what your lots are going to cost, and you can figure that out if it's a good deal or not. Just look around and see if there's any other lots that are being sold in that area. On the upside, when it comes to property development, what's cool about it is you can actually, buy the house, live in it or whatever, rent it, and just get the permits done. Don't even worry about the actual subdivision, the physical work, because that's 2 stages. Getting the permits is one huge stage, and then doing it physically is another stage. I will go into that on my own project that I'm doing right now, and that's a subdivision that I purchased, but I purchased it when the plans were done and approved. I don't like waiting so long, and God knows how long this dude waited. Right now I have a plan for 8-unit apartment building, and it's been at the city for a year and a half. So getting your development to a stage where everything is approved, I mean, the plan is approved, nobody did anything, is good enough for you to make some money. If you happen to, do that and you realize, oh man, this is kind of like a lot, you can always recoup and make some money because getting those plans is so valuable. It's valuable enough. The second thing about developing lots is you can keep some of them and sell some of them. So you can, if you get 4 lots, you can sell 2 of them and recoup some of your, money that you spent, and then keep 1 or 2 for yourself. And if you don't want to build at the moment, you can always build later. If it's not something that you want to do right now, you can just leave the lot empty. You're not going to pay much tax on it anyways, and just chill. Like I said, to buy a piece of property, to subdivide it, it takes time and it takes patience. It's something that is really nice for a person that wants a house anyways and moves there. And instead of just buying a house that has no potential, you buy a house that has a potential of something. Subdividing it even in 2 is worth it. If you are not tied to time. If you are tied to time and you really need this done soon, that's not the way to go. So property development has its good sides, has its bad sides, just like pretty much everything else. But the most important thing is it takes time. So you're not gonna get your money back right away. And sometimes if you buy a piece of raw land, you might have to pay cash for it, and that's another downside. That's why I said buy a house, because you can finance a house. A house can't be bought on mortgage. You can finance a house for 3% down payment or 4% down payment if it's your first house, versus cashing out like $500,000 for a piece of land. To finish this thing off, I would not get into land development right out of the gate. Regardless of what you're doing, buy something that has a house on it, add to the backyard, build a duplex, do something where you already have an asset that has value, because you're only going to increase value of this land by the time you get the permits. So there's really not too much you can do to get your money back if something goes south. Please take a look at my other video about my own property development, and I'm going to go into really a lot more detail on what that is and everything that it includes. This is more of a summary of what exactly property development is, just out of the box.